Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Highlander My name is Teddy and I'm more than excited to bring you some more Canadian Highlander gameplay today. Today is a special day because today is our end of year tournament and I'm excited to crown our 2022 Canadian Highlander Northern Germany champion today. Before we jump into the games, a quick note: we allow our players to use up to 20 playtest cards or proxies because our tournaments are unsanctioned, so the whole format is a little bit more affordable and welcoming to new players. Also, a quick shout out before we jump into the games to the Canadian Highlander Council. It's so amazing how you keep this format healthy and awesome as it is. So yeah, without anything else, enjoy the games. Hello and welcome to round number 1 of our Canadian Highlander end of year tournament here in Bremen, Germany. My name is Teddy and I'm not alone today. I have a lot of great co-commentators with me, like Dennis. Hi Dennis.
Hey, hello. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So in this tournament, we will crown our champion of 2022. And this is the first round. It's me against Daniel, who plays a control deck, and I play a Time Vault combo deck. And you are pretty much the most involved Time Vault player I know, so I'm really looking forward to see what you have to say.
Yeah, I think in the last year it was... there were only 2 tournaments or something like that where I didn't play Time Vault. And I've seen a lot of different configurations of this deck. I'm really happy to be able to witness this. And I'm excited to see your deck, your list, and what you're doing in these games.
Yeah, we will see. I just put the list together like 3 days before the tournament. I'm usually playing X, and I built this deck pretty much like I would build an X deck, but instead of the Black Lotus, I added the Time Vault and cut some other cards as well, but yeah, we will see how it works out.
It definitely is a very interesting matchup, and it's not really an easy matchup, I would say, because Spark has counter spells and other really important interaction against artifact decks.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can also just pressure your life total pretty well.
Exactly.
So Daniel starts us off just with a Marsh Flats. And I suspend a Lotus Bloom.
And I have to say, I really love the way you display that it's suspend, and it helps you not forgetting, right? I think that technique is really awesome. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
But you have to search your library in a moment, right? That's getting hard.
Yeah. That's the only annoying part about this. So, because I knew Daniel was going to play Bug, I tried to play around Stifle here, fetching response, because there were so many times that Stifle got me in the last 2 years, I think. It's always brutal.
Interesting enough that you don't have a 1-drop. That's not that common, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I cut some X just to smooth out the deck a little bit more. And I'm not sure how many 1-drops I have. I think I have more 0-drops than 1-drops actually, but...
Sure.
Yeah. I think knowing that I can suspend the Lotus Bloom on turn 1 was enough to let me keep that hand.
Yeah. Against most decks, that's fast enough and pretty powerful in turn 4. Yeah, you didn't forget your suspend trigger.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
Yeah, but now I'm sad that I didn't put the card back in the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of the meek.
Yeah.
A pretty sort of the meek.
Oh, I'm so glad that they reprinted so many artifacts in that old border. Oh, my Academy heart beats so much faster.
Yeah, definitely. I see like there are 4 old bordered cards, or like it's pretty much like 5 old bordered cards on at the moment on your side of the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, the bug deck isn't that fast. It's a control deck after all, right? But you always have to be a little bit scared of something like Collector Oof or stuff like that. Even Force of Vigor or something of that kind can be really devastating in these early turns.
And I'm actually surprised that the sword just resolved at that point as well. So
yeah. See a peek, and
I don't know what the other card is in his graveyard.
A black 1-drop, something, a discard spell, I think, probably. Or something like that. And I see Oko in Daniel's hand, which is always scary.
Yeah, that's a good reason to let that sword resolve, I think. If you can handle it anyway, it's not that scary.
At least at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, and I just drew the Academy.
Oh, beautiful. That feeling, best feeling on earth.
Yeah, just having the natural draw, not searching it up with a crop rotation or expedition map, always feels nice.
And there is a tutor for the Thopter Foundry. Very nice. I guess that's what you're searching for. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, it's a Time Lord. Okay, sure. Then I'm not sure. Do you have the combo already in hand? Is there something to untap the Time Lord?
I think I have another tutor in hand.
Oh, yep.
And with that Lotus coming off suspend next turn, I feel pretty confident that I can pretty much goldfish this game, but Daniel has something to say about that as well.
I guess so, yes. Otherwise you have a lot of mana, right? You have the Academy and the 3 mana from the Lotus.
Yep.
That's plenty. But a counter spell or something like that, a discard spell right about now would be pretty strong from Daniel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he drew a Force of Will. Oof.
That's pretty nice.
That makes it hard, because now he's able to deploy the Oko and have a counterspell backup for your Time Bolt.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to play around and get something through.
Oh,
and that's
he's not going for the Oko.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But knowing he has the Force and that my Time Bolt is not going to resolve, this might set him up a bit better for future turns. So
sure. And he isn't very scared from the sword right now, and that's true. But you have a full hand. There's a lot of stuff going on. So maybe you can push through a Force of Will with a little bit of action.
Yeah.
In the end, I'm not sure if Oko wouldn't be the more secure option right here.
I think it would definitely be more safe, but I'm not sure what else is in Daniel's hand at this point, so he might have a reason.
There's the Time Vault.
And
And
there's
there's
the Force.
no Time Vault. Sure. But you have to be very happy to see that spell gone.
Absolutely.
Another counter spell with tons of value. Which he would have the mana for the next turn.
Yep.
Now what's going? Oh, is that a pass?
That's a path, I think.
Oh, pass with a lot of mana. That's sad.
If I remember correctly, I have a Whir of Invention in hand.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I
sure.
might have used that vault as bait.
Mm-hmm.
So
Time
we will
Vault
see.
is awesome bait because it's so scary. Everybody is scared when you put it on the stack,
Absolutely.
no matter what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I've lost so many times against you as well. even if the situation did not seem that scary at that point, you just get the vault out of nowhere and GG.
Yeah, true. I remember that I've empty-handed, no action on the board. I've top-tagged Vault, played the Vault, and everybody is scared, even though I have nothing going on else.
Yeah.
But it's always such a big threat, this card.
Always have to respect it.
Yeah. Which is probably the reason for the 7 points, right?
Yeah. So,
Oh, the
Mystic
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary from Daniel, and yes, actually no really amazing targets, just the peak in his graveyard.
Interesting. Wouldn't you say Force of Will is also a very viable target here? Because now he knows what he's playing against.
Yeah, that would definitely have been viable.
The other option would be to activate the Lily first and mill 2 cards and look for something in there, but that's a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
There's an Oko. And now you know he can only have a 2 mana counter spell, or a Force of Negation, I guess.
And he
So
makes a food with the Oko.
yeah. So he still isn't scared of exactly this.
Yeah.
And if anybody hasn't seen Tolarian Academy with this combo yet, it's absolutely awesome. It's beautiful.
It's one of my favorite things. I try to jam it in every deck. Thopter combo, Thopter sword combo is just makes so interesting lines to play.
Yeah. You have very strong abilities to protect this combo by sacking the Thopter Foundry itself, for example, and getting it back if somebody wants to exile it or turn it into an Elk. Things like this. Yeah, that makes it really interesting. And it's extremely... Is it exponentially? I think it's even quicker than that, right? It's really a really fast clock that gets out of hand extremely quickly if you have Tolarian Academy on the board.
Definitely.
There it's going.
So if you're not familiar with this combo, you can sack the sword to the Thopter Foundry for 1 mana to get 1 life and get a 1/1 flying Thopter token. But with the sword in the graveyard, it actually sees a 1/1 entering play and comes just straight back. So if you can pay the mana, you can sack the sword as many times as you want, gaining huge amounts of life, making a huge amount of tokens. So, yeah.
And all those tokens are artifacts. That's
Exactly.
why the Academy makes more and more mana, and you can make more and more tokens. And then the timing is on the wall, or the writing is on the wall. That's what you say, right?
Yeah.
The writing is on the wall. I like mine too.
Yeah. Times on the wall. It's nice.
Talaria West, more important than making 3 Thopter tokens at the moment. Interesting. I'm not sure what you're getting. Okay. If I saw that right.
Yeah, I think
It's
I'm
an
getting a
untapper.
deserted temple to untap the academy.
That makes even more mana, true. Or does it really? I think it doesn't make more mana at the moment, but it will pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Now he still has an Oko, which is able to turn the Thopter Foundry into an Elk next turn.
Yep.
But it will probably be the last turn he has an Oko.
Hopefully. So there's the peak we knew about.
Oh, a Trinket Mage, yeah. And a Boseiju. Yo.
That card is so busted. Those channel lands are just ridiculous.
Yeah, true.
Also the channel ability on the what's the name? Moonsnare prototype?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Comes up fairly often.
Yep.
It's a really nice card for decks like these.
It's nice against a stupid card like Collector Oof.
Sadly, no, right? Because it's an activated ability from an artifact.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure you can't do that if a Collector Oof is on the field. That's the one downside of this card.
It's so good that you're telling me this, because that never came up, and I'm so glad that I know it now.
Yeah, sadly that doesn't work.
That would have been so embarrassing. Okay.
The good thing is it's pretty good against the Archon, the white Archon, because it doesn't count as casting a spell.
Oh.
So, yeah, you can tutor it with a artifact tutor spell and then activate it to bounce the Archon. That's pretty nice. Yo. Yeah, I had to learn the hard way that this card is really, really good.
The Wither command? Yeah.
Yeah, especially against something like this deck. It's really strong.
And now the Thopter fun begins.
Yeah. Create 1 million tokens.
Yeah. So I sack the Lotus Bloom to make 3 mana, use the 3 mana to make 3 Thopter tokens, which will give me more mana for my academy. And now it's just rinse and repeat.
Seven mana from the first activation.
Yep.
That makes another 6 tokens.
Yep. Leaving 1 mana in my mana pool, so I can use the Deserted Temple to untap the academy.
And now it makes 12? 13?
12 or 13 mana, yeah. It's so stupid.
Really stupid. Oh, I love to see it.
I feel sorry for Daniel now. My life points look more like we're playing Commander.
Yeah. And I said a moment ago he will not have an Oko the next turn, but I guess it's not really relevant at this point.
Yeah. With more than 20 flyers in the air, it's pretty tough to get out of that point.
He can eat one food, but that's still only 20 life.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't have a mass removal spell of some sort, this is pretty over.
Yeah. I think he's still thinking about how he can get out of this, but the only 3 mana Wrath he has in his deck is, I think, Toxic Deluge.
Yep.
And he has no mana to cast it, even if he finds it, I think. So
yeah,
that's just game number 1.
Yeah, the Time Vault was just in distraction for the real plan.
Yeah. I mean, if it had resolved, it would have been pretty amazing. But
true, sure.
Luckily, this deck has many ways to win, not just the Time Bolt.
Yeah, of course, yeah. The good old 2-card Monty. Or
yeah, almost
something similar. Yeah. On the other hand, if he had chosen your sword to turn into an elk with the Oko in the turn he played the Lily, he could have seen a little bit more turns, and then who knows where it would have gone.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was a really critical situation in the last game.
Yep.
Luckily for you, he didn't see the threat as big as it really was.
Also, I have to say, Daniel is fairly new to Canadian Highlander, so I can definitely understand that he's not that familiar with every line that should be taken, if you know what I mean. But
yeah, of course. And it's very special to play against a deck like this. Even people who played a little bit more Highlander but don't really know how to play against this have problems with decisions like that. It's hard. It's definitely hard.
Absolutely. A turn 1 Delver. That's so scary.
Yeah. That's a clock you don't want to see flip, at least. So every time it doesn't flip, it's like a
yeah.
No 3 power in the air, and he didn't top take a counter spell. Perfect.
At least
now there's
I would know about that. I would know about that counter spell. But yeah.
True. Yeah. Now you have a Lineside Diamond again. 3 mana rock.
Yep.
Ooh, and I see a Reclamation, Savini's Reclamation in your hand. That goes pretty well with the Lineside Diamond.
Absolutely.
And I see a Negate in Daniel's hand and a Force Spike, both pretty potent counterspells against the kind of deck you're playing.
Yep. Yep.
And a Bitter Blossom, I think, which is also not a very fast clock, but at least it is one.
Yeah, and it adds up quite well.
Yeah.
If he gets the time, that can definitely kill me.
But you see, he didn't play the Bitter Blossom, so he is a little bit more scared.
Yep.
He really wants to have the Negate open. He already had his hand on the Negate, but then he saw it's just a Prophetic Prism. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have that one.
There are so many scary things at 2 mana, and that one's just not one of them.
No, absolutely not. It's mostly a cantrip, right?
Yeah.
Mostly.
But
You
playing
play 5 colors, so yeah. Sometimes you
fixing
need that.
this is quite relevant. I think it's especially relevant in this game, if I remember correctly. But we might see about that in a turn or two.
Especially in a deck like yours, you want to play stuff like the Treasure Vault you have there, which only makes colorless mana, and that's also a strain on a 5-color deck, even though there are a lot of artifacts in there.
Delver still did not flip.
Whee!
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little bit biased in this game.
That's okay. And there we see the Bitter Blossom.
Yeah. So he probably thinks a 4 spike is enough.
That could definitely be. So
Yeah, it often is. Very often is. And it's a card which is really hard to play around, right? It's not Legacy where you know the opponent has probably 4 dazes in his deck.
Yep.
So you can't really play around it all the time. You try to if it doesn't really cost something, but a lot of times it would cost a lot to play around it, and then it's just not worth it.
absolutely. Especially if he has a clock in play. I'm not sure if I can wait another turn just to play around a daze or a 4 spike.
Exactly. There's the Mystic Forge. Now, that's an interesting decision.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how good your hand is. I see Reclamation, which you can discard. That's not the worst thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you discard it.
There was a fast bound Savine's Reclamation, Tolaria West, and this sword, which is now in the graveyard.
Which is also irrelevant if it's in your graveyard or on the battlefield, right? The sword
Exactly.
is also very good to see in the graveyard. And the Mystic Forge, to have the Mystic Forge is really, really important, especially in a matchup where the opponent isn't that fast.
Yep.
And you want to accrue value. But Daniel isn't really unhappy right now too, because to trade the 4 spike for Alliance item, which can be very, very more powerful than it was right now.
I mean, it
probably
did not only trade for the Lions Diamond already, also
sure.
traded for 4 more cards. So
yeah, and for 2 lands in your hand, stuff like that, right?
Yep. So there, unfortunately, I was 1 mana short of casting a Thought Monitor.
Sad. With 4 artifacts on board. Yeah, I see.
Still no Delver flip.
Still no. Oh, haven't we seen yet? Yeah. Did he look already?
I thought so. Maybe
sure.
I was mistaken.
Yeah, I think he drew already. Okay, sure.
Little Delver getting the beats in.
Whoa. Like this, he just takes another 15 turns. Easy peasy.
Yep.
Yeah. He has the fairies, right? No, he has help.
That's true.
And now Daniel has a Spellstutter Sprite and a Negate in hand, which are both pretty interesting and good counter spells at the moment, because he also has a fairy in play. Spellstutter Sprite is rarely seen in Canadian Highlander decks, right?
Yep. Yeah.
It's more of a pauper card. Yo. But this is very good, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's strong. Wow.
I think Daniel has a little fairy sub theme in his deck going. It's pretty interesting. There are quite a lot that synergize quite well. Like a Vendilion Clique as well, or
yeah,
I mean Bitter Blossom and Spellstutter Sprite is quite nice.
Mm-hmm. And that was a really, really important spell to counter, right?
Oh yeah.
That would have been a really strong card if it resolved. Important to notice, you can't play artifact lands from the top of your library with the Mystic Forge. That's why you exiled it last turn.
Yep.
If somebody wondered.
Although, also I thought having that Arid Mesa in play that I drew for turn would allow me to shuffle and maybe give me another look. So
yeah. But you haven't used it. Why didn't you use it?
Maybe I like the card that's on top now.
Yeah. That's probably a good reason. Yeah, now they hit with 3 creatures as much as the Delver could alone if he flipped.
And I'm also helping Daniel with the Mystic Forge because I have to pay a life every time.
Yeah. You can die from needle stings. That's entirely possible.
Yep.
You didn't like the next card, so now it's time to fetch.
Yeah, I think I was kind of unlucky with the Mystic Forge situation, but I mean, that was so risky giving my hand away for that card, so I was pretty committed at that point anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many artifacts you have in your deck. It's an important number if you play the Mystic Forge.
Like 40-ish.
Yeah.
So the chances are not that slim to hit something.
Yeah. Another cantrip. Also fixing in your deck. Also important.
Yep. Restless Saga.
Ooh, nice.
That's a good top deck.
Always.
But it's not that good against all those pesky flyers.
But I think it's very quick. It's a quicker clock than Daniel has at the moment. But I'm not entirely sure because the Bitter Blossom ticks up, right?
Yeah.
It's more and more. But it can be an insanely fast clock.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much if I win next turn, or if I don't, I lose.
Oh, so sure, you're already on 5 life.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can't even use the Urza Saga, the 3rd chapter of Urza Saga. That's sad.
Going down to 4.
Yeah, doesn't really make a difference right now, right?
Yeah.
4 or 5.
That either way.
And Daniel still has his negate. Which he's holding on to for dear life because that's probably the one thing that will win him this game. If you have something. And I see Remand too.
Yeah, he's pretty safe at this point.
Yeah, he's pretty safe. You don't have that much mana that Remand is pretty problematic. But you don't know that, so you're still searching for the way through this.
Yeah. I still have an out because I think I drew a Whir of Invention. And if I played this situation correctly, I could have had one more turn.
Interesting.
But I messed it up. And
even with the negate?
Yes, we will see in a second.
Wow.
I remember that now. I just realized it when I was editing this video and it was so painful.
Now I'm pretty excited to learn what it is.
So here I cast the word of invention for x equals 2 by tapping my lands. So Daniel counters it. But I could have tapped my artifacts to improvise, leaving my 2 mana open. So then I could have activated Urza Saga to block the Delver, which was still not flying, and that would leave me at 1 life.
True.
And then I would have another turn. But it didn't
Which
work
could
out.
make all the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So game number 3.
But it's a hard deck to play, right? It's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah. And since this deck was pretty new-ish for me at that point, like I said, just built it 2 days before the tournament. I think I messed up quite a lot of lines.
I play this deck for pretty much a year right now, and I miss so many lines. It's ridiculous. It's extremely hard.
But no matter the outcome here, me and Daniel just had a blast playing. It was such a nice time. I was really happy that this was my round number 1 opponent.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, there's another fairy. It's a fairy Vandal. Is that the name?
Yeah. Can also be a pretty quick clock.
Yeah.
It's not a ledger shredder, but also pretty nice. Especially if you want to be able to hold up counter spells, right? Then it's really nice.
Absolutely.
Daniel's deck also feels a little bit like a tempo deck. Not fully control. Also a little bit more action.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mix between both, or he was just not sure what to call it.
Yeah. Really nice start from you with a really good land again.
Yep.
It's not a extremely strong land. which is insane to say. Yeah. But if you play something like Urza Saga or Tolarian Academy, then an Ancient Tomb is just good.
It's meh.
or I think a Mishra's Factory or Mishra's Workshop. That's something you play too. Yeah, if you get accustomed to lands like those, then an Ancient Tomb is just the bare minimum.
It also deals damage to you. It's just compared to the others.
It's it's true.
Yeah.
But damage, oh come on.
Yeah.
It's just a resource, right? Life is just a resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. Now you can use the filter function. That's pretty cool. And there's a lonely Thopter Foundry.
And I think now I will mess up. I planned it all ahead, and then I just thought, oh no, I could do this now. And I have 1 mana floating from the Ancient Tomb, and so I sack the Prophetic Prism just to make a Thopter at this point, because I thought, I have that mana floating anyway.
Interesting. So afraid of mana burn?
Absolutely. We'll see how this comes back to bite me.
Yeah, I can see that. The mana fixing is important after all, right?
Yep. And I definitely underestimated it in this deck.
Yeah.
The mana base is even for my standards a bit too greedy.
And that's the thing with playing decks like these. There are so many tiny decisions that have huge consequences for your whole game plan, which are really hard to see and a peek. Now we can see what you're playing with. Oh yeah, I see a double blue spell.
And only a colorless land.
Yeah. Yep.
So that reshape could have got me the sword next turn if I didn't sack the prism. because then I would have 2 mana, could have sacked the Prism as an additional cost to the reshape, and that would have felt pretty good, but yeah.
And now you're more or less in the mercy of your top deck to find a second blue source. I guess you play around 30 lands?
33,
or less.
I think.
33, okay, that's
quite
a few. Yeah.
High.
But if you have 5 color, right, you have to get that in some way in there.
And some lands are like Tolaria West, which is almost like a spell.
True.
So
you don't really want to play it like a land.
Yeah.
You do if you have to, but it's not nice. That's 5 mana you have there, right? Or 4? 4 mana? Or 5?
It's... Oh my god, math is hard. Yeah, I think it's 5 mana.
Yeah. 2, untap. 3, 4. No, it's still just 4. It doesn't really matter if you untap the Ancient Tomb. It doesn't really do anything, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
does something. It hurts you, but yeah, it's awful and it's really bad. Moonsnare prototype. Sadly, doesn't make colored mana either.
Yeah, and it gets misstepped.
Yeah. So he isn't scared of your portable hole, which is interesting.
Yeah, true. He knows about that. But his deck has so much interaction.
Yeah. And again, you don't have the colored mana this turn to play it. So if he plays this very Vandal and blocks, which he probably is going to do right now, then he can have interaction for the next turn again.
Yep.
Yeah, true. On the other hand, he has seen that the extra mana doesn't really do anything for you.
Also true.
Or he wants to force you to use the Ancient Tomb some more times and drain you out of life like that.
I mean, it's pretty viable.
Yeah, sure, of course.
But, yeah. And there we see the Vandal,
Yeah, nice block. And now there's not a lot of action on your side left.
Nope, not at all.
Only 2 artifacts in play make it really hard to cast the Thought Monitor.
Yep.
And the Wasteland. Oh, evil.
Goodbye, blue mana.
Yo.
Good old Phyrexian Furnace, having to exile the bottommost card of your graveyard, making graveyard auto meta in Canadian Highlander. Always love to see it from a judge perspective.
Yeah. That didn't seem like a colored mana source.
Nope. I think that was the most expensive spell in the deck, Time Spiral.
Nice. Doesn't really seem castable at the moment.
No.
And now you have to sack another artifact, so even the Tolarian Academy isn't really a nice top deck. And there's a 5-drop with 2 blue pips. It has red.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Those are not the nicest top decks.
Oh, this feels so bad.
Yeah.
Getting killed by another fairy.
And Yeah, he kills your last artifact, that's true, but you can get a land.
Yeah.
But not if you're sacking it. So, okay, sure.
That's such a risky line from Daniel at this point, I think.
Yeah,
But
I think so too.
on the other hand, getting rid of my only value piece on the board, also not the worst.
And you still have to find another blue source. And even then, the reshape can't really find anything that wins you immediately the game, and he has interaction in hand, so... On the other hand, you can always top deck something like the Sword of the Meek, right?
That's true.
Even though it isn't very likely. The Fairy Vandal's still not growing. That's good for you.
Oh yeah.
At least he doesn't have a clock. His quickest clock is still your Ancient Tomb. That's a beautiful card.
And
If you have artifacts.
Yeah. But I can't believe that it resolved.
True. True. I can believe it because at the moment it really does nothing, right? And looking at the 3 cards he knows in your hand, it still does nothing. So
Yeah,
there
true.
still has to happen a lot for this card to be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can get out of hand very quickly.
I mean, it technically would allow me to cast a Thought Monitor next turn if I sack Crackline Ironworks to itself. But
True. Not the nicest way to use that card, but true.
Yeah.
And if you draw a 1 mana artifact or something like that, you could use that too.
and there goes the Thought Monitor.
But it gives you another look. Which could be a blue source, right? Which would be really good.
Yeah, it would. It would.
But it gives 3 power for Daniel addition.
And now he's growing the Vendel as
Ew.
well.
Now he has 5 damage on board. Which means if he hits you 2 turns, you can use your Ancient Tomb only once.
Yep.
After that, it's turned off. And to get those turns is really, really important against a deck like this Vault Academy deck. Because 1 turn can make all the difference. And it often does.
And Daniel just found a miscalculation from that ponder.
Yes. Which is only good if you don't have artifacts for the Crackline Ironworks, otherwise it's not that strong. But at the moment, it's really important for Daniel.
Yep.
Now, do you have a second blue source? You didn't slam it, which makes me think no, but...
I mean, technically the Deserted Temple gives me a second blue source. Because
Yeah.
I can untap the island. But
That's very technical, right?
yeah. Not a good place to be in for me.
No. And if you tap the Ancient Tomb, every draw spell from Daniel kills you next turn.
Yep.
So, all in all, not a nice situation for you to be in.
Not at all.
But I have to say the third round was very well played from Daniel. He used the situation very well in his own advantage.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
Ein Schock. Yes. Yeah, nice. Just shock it in.
Yeah.
No worries.
I think at this point it's all or nothing, so.
Absolutely. And probably nothing. But maybe it's everything, so.
Yeah.
I know this situation where you think, okay, when I play this, you just can't have a counterspell.
Yeah, just trying to resolve that time spiral now.
Yeah.
And just 1 mana shot for the miscalculation. GG, Daniel. That was well deserved. Beating me to death with fairies.
Yes, he did. He did. True.
Thank you so much for joining me for the first round, Dennis.
Very happy to do that. It was a nice match. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to round number 2 of our year-end tournament. I'm not alone, I have another guest with me. This time it's Olli. Hi Olli.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. So you participated in that tournament as well?
Yes, and I also want to thank you once again for organizing this great tournament. Yeah, it was a blast to play. And also, I mean, it was just 1 week after Christmas. And to boost the Christmas mood, you even organized some, not only beer, but also some hot wine punch that the players could enjoy. But here we are in round 2, so I guess it mainly boosted the Christmas mood here and affected the performance of the players less, up to this point at least.
Yeah, hopefully no one's drunk yet. Yeah. We have Rune on Death in Texas and Emil on his Seekerwalk list.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the matchup? Is anyone in favor in this case?
Good and tough question also. I think both have a reasonable chance to win here. Emil's deck naturally is much more greedy, so plays 4 colors here. I think it's mainly banned, but plays red also for some of the most, of the more recent and you could say borderline broken, or depending on who you ask, maybe even completely broken new cards like Minsk and Boo, Comet, and so on. And Rune, on the other hand, is playing much less greedy, but is also maybe not the type of deck that punishes Emil the most for being greedy, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there are no blood moons at least.
Yeah. I mean, we see a decent start here with the turn 1 Esper Sentinel, and Emil had to take a mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have to see how Rune can stop Emil from just following his game plan.
And that game plan of Emil is not a single game plan actually, but he at least has 2. So there's a combo plan, naturally. So what he tries to do is, or what he can do at any point later in the game, is either directly cast a Spellseeker, or somehow cheat a Spellseeker into the game via Neoform or Eldritch Evolution, for instance. Then he searches his deck for an Ephemerate, casts the Ephemerate on the Spellseeker, which then triggers again, of course, finds a second spell, and finds the remaining 7 points, apart from the 3 points invested in Seeker. And those 7 points are Time Walk, hence the name of the deck. And at that point, the game is essentially over, since next turn his Seeker will usually find Neoform, unless he has cast it already, and then sack the Seeker itself, or a 2-drop for a Timeless Witness, or its smaller sister, the Eternal Witness. recur the ephemerate and essentially get infinite turns from that point.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's only the main plan of the deck, you could say.
Yeah, and it also has a huge mid-range package.
Yeah. And this is where the aforementioned very strong cards, like the big planeswalkers, and also many smaller ones like Oko and so on. And also, of course, the new initiative creatures that you somehow can't avoid in Canlander.
In no format at the moment.
Yeah, right. In no format where they are legal.
Yeah.
So there they come into play. And of course, the Seekerwalk deck doesn't really need the combo to win. But as soon as he has enough mana and at least a few cards left in hand, it would be very risky, or you could say courageous, to tap out against the deck.
Yeah. I think the Death and Taxes matchup against the combo side of the deck is pretty good, because you can interact with all the creatures. You can maybe prevent Emil from searching.
Mm-hmm.
What might be tough is the mid-range plan of the deck, because the creatures of Emil might just outclass the white weenies.
Yeah, I totally agree that the Death and Taxes deck can, in general, interact very well or prevent Emil from comboing off. I mean, in order to perform, in order to complete this combo, he has to cast several spells per turn, for instance, including non-creature spells. So a single Talia or an Archon of Emeria or the likes would suffice. And also, in order to execute the combo, he has to use the Graveyard. And here's one card, for instance, that could prevent him from doing that as well. That's Unlicensed Hearse. So there are many hate pieces in a typical Death and Taxes list. So it's rather unlikely that Emil can just run through without any interference. But here we also see that Rune has ticked up his vial to 2 already. And he has not yet put a creature into play. And he only has 2 cards left in hand, is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's true. He also has 4 mana on the battlefield already, which is pretty much enough for the deck to function. So I think he really needs a good creature top deck at the moment.
Yeah. But maybe he has a 2-drop in hand at least. We'll find out soon, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, at least the Tarmogoyf is pretty much handled at this point, and there's not that much pressure coming from Emil.
Yeah.
Just the Scavenging Ooze at the moment.
Yeah. Even the Scavenging Ooze is somewhat not synergizing well with the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
But the Unlicensed Hearse, of course, will take care of it, make sure that it stays small, at least doesn't hurt him that much. Yeah, but as you said, the Death and Taxes deck has 4 mana already and a vial in play. So, and I think that's one way that the Death and Taxes list could overcome the Seekerwalk deck. That is by fast mana, or by cheating creatures into play via different routes, and in that regard just being faster than the Seekerwalk deck. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So end of turn, Rune decided to cycle the Unearth in the face of this Scavenging Ooze, which is probably pretty wise.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he didn't find a 2-drop either. So his vial is set to 3 counters already. And now there's the first creature from the Death and Taxes list, from the Death and Taxes side. And that's not a big beta actually, but at least someone that grants him a redraw. Thrap Inspector.
And I think Rune even draw another land, or possibly draw another land. At least he has 5 mana at hand now, so
Yeah, that may be more than he needs. So
yeah, probably.
on the other side, you see 4 mana being tapped, and here's our first initiative creature of the game. It's the Undermountain Adventurer, which, assuming it won't be countered or stifled, which is rather unlikely, will also give Emil the 5th land. And now he really has pressure on the board. So Rune is really pressured to make something happen and take away the initiative from Emil now. Maybe via his own initiative creature. That would be great, of course.
That would be amazing at this point of the game. So Rune cracks his clue to draw another card. And I'm unsure. It's probably not a 3-drop that he would have vialed in at this point already.
Yeah. So you know the Grey Death in Texas list very well, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, because it's also my deck that I borrowed Rune for the year-end tournament.
Great.
So
can you confirm that this deck runs a reasonable number of creatures?
I swear it does.
Oh, there's another land.
There's another land, which is actually pretty relevant at this point, because Emil just played a Caracas, and Death in Texas is playing quite a lot of legendary creatures as of now, because Wizards just printed so many busted cards in the last year or two. So taking out that Caracas is probably pretty relevant for Rune if he wants to claw his way back into the game.
Yeah, and this might be one way of doing so. Here he casts Yumezawa's Yitte, or Jitte, however you may call it. And that's a card that can run away with the game pretty fast.
Yeah.
Now the question is he attacking with his Inspector already? Or is he waiting?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I wouldn't know if I would attack at this point.
Yeah.
Because the swing back is just so huge.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if Emil is able to remove the Thraben Inspector, it's just...
Yeah, an investment of 4 mana. 2 of which at
pretty
least
much
go
nothing.
into the drain, yeah.
So Emil is now going into the Forge, putting another 2 counters on the Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah. But now the Scavenging Ooze is certainly too big to be blocked by the Thraben Inspector and then be killed via the Yitte. I mean, up to this point, there at least were no creatures in the yard to prevent him from prevent Rune from killing that Scavenging Ooze, because the Unlicensed Hearse could remove it in response.
Yep.
However, not really actually, since I assume, even though there's too much glare to really be sure, but I think that Emil has more than 1 green mana available. I mean, he has 2 from the Adventurer at least.
Yeah, he does. Sorry about the glare. We're still trying to figure out the best way to light up the scene at the tournaments.
Who
I
cares
promise
about
there
lands?
will be better light in the future.
Yeah. So this would be a very good time now to have found another creature to vial in.
Yeah.
Because now it's getting pretty tough for Rune at this point. And he's thinking about blocking, and it seems like he is not even blocking at all. So there were 2 attackers here, the Scavenging Ooze and the Adventurer, which has Vigilance.
Yeah, so Rune would go to 8 from the attack. Something like a Skyclef Apparition would just be the best thing. Yeah, it's a tough choice at this point. Do you want to get the counters on the jitte, or would you rather wait?
Yeah. But I mean, even if he doesn't block, and even if he finds a removal for one of Emil's creatures, then there's still at least another blocker, so it's still tough to get through. And if he blocks here and kills the Temur, for instance, with the counters, then he can remove the Undermountain Adventurer, find, for instance, via a Palace Jailer, use the Palace Jailer as well to activate the Unlicensed Hearse, and then attack through and get initiative back. Still would be dire, I guess. On
Then
his
he
side.
would still die on the spring
back,
back
yeah.
because
Yeah.
Emil would go to the trap after his attack.
Yeah. So at this point, what could Rune really find or hope for, and what would he need to have in hand already to survive this? I mean,
He's starting by taking out the Caracas with his Ghost Quarter.
Yeah. Ouch. And here's a Solitude as well. Using the mana from the Adventurer as well. Keeping 2 mana open.
Even 3 because he floated 1 white mana with the Caracas.
Oh, right.
So that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, of course, the question is, do you really want to play the Jitte, equip the Jitte to the Inspector, and then neither attack nor block? That's also pretty yeah,
it's pretty tough.
questionable move, you could say.
Yeah.
So at this point we have to assume that Rune doesn't have very good other option in hand. Okay. So your Hearse takes up to 4. But at this point I think what he has to hope to find maybe something like a dam.
Oh yeah. An overloaded dam to destroy every creature. That would be definitely good for him.
Yeah. So that would at least clear up the board for the moment. Then he would probably still take 5 from the trap, but then have an unlicensed Hearse with more than 4 counters up to that point on it, a Jitte that he can equip to it, and a Vial to get into play whatever he finds, presumably. So that would be one of the cards that could help him here, but instead it's just a Luran. And that doesn't even have
no
a target,
targets.
Right? Ouch.
Yeah. I think it was his only creature.
Yeah. So that at least allows him to activate the Hearse. However, instead he opts to equip it, and here the writing's on the wall, and Rune picks up his cards and calls it a day. Let's hope for better cards and especially more creatures on his side in game number 2. So you could say that was a pretty unlucky draw.
Yeah, it was. I mean, his start was pretty amazing if you think about it. He had a turn 2 Mox. He had the Ether Vial, which was ticking up nicely. There was just no gas coming, so no creatures, no pressure. And also Emil just had really good answers to the few things that Rune was able to deploy, like the Solitude or the Punishing Fire at the right moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Emil's deck is quite likely to find reasonable answers, since he more or less plays all the good cards.
Yeah.
But especially in that situation, it's of course a very good idea to be on the faster side, to have a Mox, to have a Vial, and then just overpower Emil before he can find and especially cast all the answers and his big planeswalkers and so on. So I think, yeah, if you have at least 1 or 2 creatures in hand, then it's very reasonable to keep that kind of hand.
Yeah.
With these acceleration pieces. Okay, now I think I see at least 1 creature that's a Kambal.
Yeah. There was
in
also a
Rune's hand.
Chrome Mox, so he might have
Hmm.
a fast start. Having to take a mulligan is pretty bad against a deck like Emil's, which can just overcome you by card advantage as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, totally agree. So if you are on the play, and if you have taken a mulligan already, so you're starting with 6 cards in hand, that's usually not the kind of hand and the kind of situation where you want to keep your Vial, because that's exactly the case where you usually run out of creatures too fast.
Yeah.
Vial is significantly better when you're on the draw. What do you think about that?
Ooh, that's an interesting statement. I mean, yeah, you get the redraw to find something, but I think it also depends on the deck. I think in mono white you could argue for that, and that might be right. If you play something like Merfolk with a Vial, I think it doesn't matter that much because you can just filter through your cards a little bit better.
Or when I am playing some weird Naya pot stuff with Wall of Blossoms and the likes in it, then you can refill your hand while casting creatures.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
that's not always the case.
So again, an Enlightened Tutor on turn 1.
So one card that you can always find is the Urza Saga, right?
Yeah.
It's usually pretty good, especially when you have a Mox in hand that grants you another mana to activate it early and to do other things while at it.
Yeah.
And which
Rune
also
could
boosts
also
your
go.
constructs.
Yeah, that's true. Rune could also go for a Mana Crypt if he has a 4 or 3 drop in hand.
Yeah, that would be great. Just slam a turn 2 Seasoned Dungeoneer or so.
Yeah, something like that. But he goes for the Urza Saga,
Alright.
which is also decent,
Yep.
because it can find the Mana Crypt later on, or
Yeah.
something like a Shadow Spear if you need the life gain.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's a pretty good card in general when you're playing against blue or controlish decks, you could say, which certainly applies here as well. Emil is also playing counter spells and the likes. This is a way to build a board to pressure the opponent without giving him the opportunity to counter spells. And even if Emil finds answers for 1 or for 2 constructs, you usually get out quite an amount of value when the opponent is trading 1 for 1 with him.
So
There's a
there's a
Ragavan.
monkey.
Monkey. And followed by a Ponder. Yeah. However, Rune also needs to find to create value here, since he has, as you said, already mulliganed to 6 and cast an Enlightened Tutor, which also puts him down 1 card effectively.
Yep.
So he somehow has to recover those 2 cards now via Urza Saga.
And we've seen that the other card in his hand is also a Chromox, which would be even more card disadvantage
Yeah.
if you have to pitch another card. So
I mean, he could theoretically just play it out and not imprint something, right?
that's true. That's true. Just to grow the constructs.
Right. And I mean, that is probably his main game plan at this point. To just kill the opponent with the constructs and maybe whatever he can follow them up with.
It's a little bit unfortunate that he hasn't found a black source of mana yet, because otherwise he could have played the Campbell last turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that would certainly turn up the heat. In every ponder costs 2 life.
Even just the removal spell to get rid of Campbell would
Yeah.
be more costly at that point.
And here Runa has to make the decision whether he wants to imprint something, and it looks like he is imprinting the Campbell, in fact.
I mean, that fixes his mana for later turns,
Yes.
definitely.
But now he only has 2 cards left in hand. Is that an Armageddon in his hand?
Oh, yeah, it is.
So that's one way of making things happen here. So since he
Yeah.
has 2 Moxen in play already that create mana, that make mana, if you can build a board with 2 big constructs now and then just erase all lands from the boards, that could be a way.
I think that dream of making 2 constructs is dying here because of the Knight of Autumn destroying the Urza Saga, but yeah, that would have been definitely good for the deck.
Yeah. Knight of Autumn destroying Urza Saga since they exist.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that half of the time I'm casting Knight of Autumn, it's destroying a saga.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Every time I played Knight of Autumn the last times, it almost every time blew up Urza Saga.
Yeah. It also speaks towards the omnipresence of Urza Saga in this format as well.
It's just such a powerful card.
It is.
There's almost no reason not to play it, I think.
I mean, one reason to not play it may be that you're playing a greedy 4 mana, 4 different colors of mana deck.
Yeah,
Like
that's
Emil
true.
does.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know if I would be willing to play Urza Saga in that deck as well. I think you have to make a concession, you have to make compromises at one point. And also I think
Also,
you...
the
Mhm.
just go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just looking into his list, and unless I'm mistaken, he's not playing a single artifact. So that might also be a reason to not play the saga here.
Absolutely. Also, the mana in a 4-color deck like Seekerwalk is just so tight
Yes.
because it's so pip intensive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Playing a turn 1 Ragavan following up with a Knight of Autumn on turn 3 is just pretty demanding on the mana base.
Yeah. Or even Causa of Crewfix and the likes. So
Yeah.
there's really all end season Pyromancer. So you're really trying to, you're really stretching things pretty far here. And an Uro, of course, for good measure. And counter spells. So yeah, you really have to.
No, yeah, we can go on. It's just, that list is so crazy.
Yeah, it's really.
But it
crazy.
works. It just works. It's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. So there were apparently not enough Blood Moon decks running around here in this tournament, I can only assume. So people out there, play more Blood Moons. Don't let people get away with this.
It's also pretty good against Urza Saga.
Yes. then you can save your Night of Autumn for other things.
Yeah.
So, and here we have 4 mana on Emil's side, and he also has an Omnath, one of those very, very strong cards if you can find the right mana for it. But
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
playing that, and I think he certainly could have, he opts to play a Wall of Blossoms instead and keep 2 mana open, which usually means that he has interaction waiting to be spelled, to be cast here.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Rune is,
there's the Armageddon.
yes, and this had to be expected, unfortunately. So if the opponent is leaving 2 blue mana open at this point, there's always the risk of running into a counterspell.
Yeah, but I think Rune still had to go for it here.
Probably.
Because if it
yes.
resolves, he's just so far ahead.
Yeah. And Emil could just as well have a Punishing Fire again or something.
Yeah, even a Lightning Bolt or something for
Yes.
the Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, and that wouldn't get rid of his construct, which would then be the biggest creature on the board after things are settled. But this is now devastating, actually.
Yeah. Becoming the Monarch, getting rid of the token. That's
brutal.
Yeah.
What's the creature that Rune has on his side of
that's
the board?
a Stoneforge Mystic, which found the Shadow Spear. That's also on the board.
And he opts not to block the Ragavan, because presumably assumes that, ouch, even worse, it doesn't get better here. This is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, again, Emil is just so far ahead at this point.
Yeah. So this is another situation where the one card that you want to find, presumably, is damned once again.
Yeah.
Grand Abolisher, that would have been great 1 turn before the Armageddon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But it probably wouldn't have survived, we can assume.
No.
Yeah.
Not with that much interaction on Emil's side.
Yeah. And Emil still has 3 cards in hand, one of which is Omnath, which on its own can take over games.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that confident for the Death and Taxes player here for his chances.
Oh no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's just...
So it's more or less draw damn or be damned at this point.
Yeah. So Emil even had the fetch land to go with the Omnath, triggering him a second time now after he fetches, giving him 4 more mana
to work with. Yes.
Yeah. So he has still 6 mana open after playing a 4-drop.
Yes, which already granted him 4 life, right? And a card?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, not the 4 life yet?
No, the first life come from the first trigger.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So yeah, he already gained the 4 life.
Yeah, alright. Ouch.
And this might be the final nail in the coffin.
Right. I mean, theoretically, Rune could still draw a board wipe here, but then he would still face up against the Monarch and a Planeswalker on
And
the
a
other
Jace.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
And 3 cards in hand.
that's just GG. He would have... Yeah, he needs to deploy at least 2 creatures, and that's just not happening. Yeah. Alright, GG. On to round number 3. Thank you so much for being here, Olli.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to round number 3 of our end-of-year tournament. In this round we have Sören on Blood and Texas against Johan on a Naya initiative build. And I'm not alone, I have another great commentator. I have Klaas with me. Hey Klaas.
Hello, hello, hello. I am very glad to be here. And excited for this match.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be pretty interesting, I think.
Mid-range, whatever's gonna happen. Could be very fast on either side. Could be a slogfest with lots of interaction.
So just a quick plug before we really jump into the game. Klaas is running another YouTube channel, which you can find now in the top right corner, which has some German Canadian Highlander gameplay. So if you understand German or just want to watch some exciting matches, definitely check out the channel.
Technically, this is also German Canadian Highlander gameplay. We also do German content, commentary over there. But let's get into this game. Interesting start for Sören. Just a naked Urza Saga turn 1, following up with an Ancient Tomb, which makes it a lot better to be activated immediately on turn 2, which is very nice.
Yeah, but Johan also had a pretty good start with that Ragavan on turn 1.
So I am a pretty big medium red aficionado. I pretty much exclusively play that deck, and interestingly, either of those two starts could be from medium red as well. We do love a turn 1 Ragavan. We do love an early ancient tomb and early Urza Saga. We could do either one. Just the plateau is a bit out of place. That should be a basic mountain, please.
So Ragavan goes in. Do you, as a aggressive player, would you have made a construct and blocked?
I don't know enough about Sören's hand, but I can understand just letting him hit, because whatever he's hitting is... I mean, there's probably quite a few 2-drops, so the hit rate might be there, but I think you can just let Ragavan hit 1 or 2 times. That's not the end of the world. And just advance your own gameplay and end up with like 3/3 constructs, which are very easily blocked. Oh, which easily block the Ragavan. Sadly, the construct still gets stomped. Very fast gameplay here. In response to the Urza Saga trigger, another activation and making another construct token. Sören taking a lot of damage from his land.
Yeah. Maybe the blood in the deck name is from bleeding himself out a little bit here.
Yes, but I think it should refer to the red in his mana base. So it's not a mono-white Death in Texas, but a Boros deck.
Yeah.
Kind of a hybrid between classic D&T and medium red, with the best things of both decks.
Yeah, it's definitely super aggressive.
We even see a Blood Moon in the deck.
Yeah.
And I think in the round before I lost against this deck, so we can see that Boros is better than mono red, and now we decide if adding green to the Boros actually makes a difference and makes it better. Saga finds a Mox Pearl.
Lightning bolt that construct as well.
Opening up the way for Ragavan to hit again.
But he gets swords. Probably of a plateau as well.
This is one of the cases where I would adamantly showcase the difference between good removal and path to exile, because pathing a Ragavan here would feel very bad.
Yeah, it's true.
Because Johan is actually on one land, and giving him another land would pretty much wreck you. If my Ragavan gets path to exiled in medium red, I'm more than happy and would actually encourage my opponent to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I still play Path in some decks. But especially in situations like this, you can really see the downside. That's absolutely true.
More lands that damage yourself for Sören. Playing a Stoneforge. Finding a
Which
Yeti.
finds a Umazawa's Cheetah. And he plays it immediately. Yeah, but Sorin's creatures are just not long for this world. Stoneforge just eats a Forked Bolt.
But Johan stays on one land.
Yep.
And is really hoping to have some removal for the Yeti or every creature entering the battlefield from now on. Speaking of creatures,
Adeline could really kill Johan pretty fast right now. But he has the next removal ready.
and did find another land.
Yeah, just not a green one. When I see his hand, there's a Elvish Mystic and I think some more green creatures.
So a risky keep, but I know that feeling. You always hope that the opponent doesn't have removal for your Ragavan, so you just play turn 1, hit in, the monkey gives you a treasure, and suddenly all your problems are solved. But if Ragavan gets dealt with, it's pretty much game over, and sometimes you have to take those odds.
Yeah, it could definitely have gone either way now. With that amount of removal that Johan had and the amount of damage that Søren dealt to himself.
One classic
Søren
creature, the Thalia.
And the Cemetery Gatekeeper. Notably, both creatures having first strike, so with the GT on board, makes blocking and combat a real headache for Johan.
Søren is down to 6 already, and Johan has 21 life, so you would think that Johan might be advantaged, but the Naya deck probably doesn't run that much burn. Gets attacked. Thalia, interestingly, not the most synergistic card in a Blood and Texas deck, because you probably run a lot of bolts and you see a lot of equipments that do get taxed by the Thalia as well, but you just also take that and hope that Thalia hurts your opponent more than yourself. And Johan concedes.
Yeah, missing another land drop here against a active GT is just wrecks you. So Johan on the plate this time. Probably not keeping a one-lander again.
Unless you have a Mana Dog and a Moxen or something.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
definitely possible in Naya. But we already see more lands. We see lands, Mana Dogs, and good threats, so this looks great. Quick start for Johan. Sören a bit slower with just an equipment.
And Lelia, which is probably the best creature Johan could ask for in this position.
Apart from maybe a white
Even
plume.
swinging. Yeah, even swinging in for 4 damage because of the Exalted trigger from the High Rock.
Very good. Dashing Ragavan, exiling Kiki Jiki. So Johan actually probably also plays some kind of combo in here.
I think in his point spread there was also a birthing pot, so there might be a Kiki line that he could take.
Cute interaction there that I probably would have missed is that the Ragavan exiling a card from Johan's library actually triggered Lelia and gave it another counter, so Lelia is up to 3 counters now. And Sören is down to 7.
Yeah, facing down that deck against that Fleetfoot Dancer and the Lelia now.
And just scoops it up.
That was a fast one.
Probably not even 3 minutes. That was one of the quicker matches you might have ever seen.
Yep.
I do remember a match I played against you at some point with medium red against your Academy X deck, which was similarly quick.
Oh god. That was so brutal.
I call it fun.
I'm still traumatized a little bit. But yeah, sure, we call it fun.
I needed like 5 points for a mana crypt there. Johan just did it with totally fair creatures.
Yeah, okay, true.
Give off runes, potentially a very good start for any white deck, but it gets immediately answered by a bolt. Fogged bolt here.
Yeah, Skull Clamp in this situation also doesn't really help. That's a little bit of the downside with all those equipments we've seen in, I think, all 3 games we had so far. That at some point Sören just doesn't have any creatures to equip them to. And that's pretty rough.
One of the advantages of playing green is playing Ren and 6. Gets back a land. And now represents a ping for a lot of creatures that Sören could play.
That's a Maddening Hex. Do you play that card as well in medium red?
Definitely. It's one of the better taxing effects in mono red. Hits a lot of combo decks or just mid-range decks who play interaction. Here it's not super great. Naya is probably playing a lot more creatures than anything else, but getting in 2 or 3 hits from the Maddening Hex often deals enough damage that it's worth it. In this deck, it's not super great because you actually need creatures to finish the game. Probably you do see a Lightning Helix, so it does play burn, but probably not as much as medium red does. I don't expect a Fire Blast in the Blood and Texas deck, which can then take the Maddening Hex over the finish line.
Johan also having a wasteland lock now on Sören with the Ren and 6. Sören's still having one basic plains, but his other 2 lands now are non-basic.
Let's plays another non-basic. And he takes away 1 land. Monkey gets Helix.
Lightning Helix. Yeah.
Renin 6 gets back the wasteland.
Plays a Selfless Spirit, which will get pinged immediately by the Renin 6. And now Johan has a real threat on board.
I think he just called it a thermos. Very good. Which would be Thermoskanne in German. Very good name for the Tarmogoyf. Another mother gets pinged. Probably shouldn't even play it. I mean, it does delay more land drops, but Johan still finds something.
Yeah, and with a Seasoned Pyromancer, that's just game for Sören here. So, GG.
GG, after close game 1, Johan really showed the power of ramping and just the utility of green in the Naya deck. And welcome to round 4. We have Doomsday versus Temur Tempo. Very straight combo versus more of a control-y, mid-rangey deck, I would think. With Recall, Cruise, True Name Nemesis, and Mana Drain. Very classic. No Mox, no acceleration, just straight value. And
Hello, I'm Dennis. As far as I know, is Philip more of a Grixis Temple player, at least the last year. And this is a mix-up. Now he's playing Temur. I think he wanted to play with the new nice Planeswalkers we got.
understandable. And like even old. Old is Red and 6 old. It's older than
It's it's older than
yes.
Minx and Boo, yeah. That's true. But I can't talk about that stuff because I think Ravnica isn't old and Return to Ravnica.
Return to Ravnica.
I think that's pretty old. I think that's pretty
We
old for a
have-
lot of people. You know, the original Ravnica, I guess, is old, but Return to Ravnica was like
2 years ago.
2 years ago
I mean,
or 3.
we have been
Yeah.
to Ravnica again after Return to Ravnica.
True.
We had Return to Ravnica.
And I think that's longer ago than 2 to 3
Oh,
years,
yes.
right? Yeah. Wow.
Okay. I think we can start.
Let's see.
Both players should start with 7 cards in their hand, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
And
Can only see a sleight of hand
okay,
on
Never
the
mind.
Doomsday side. Oh, 6 cards for Philip. Sure.
and I think I would favor the Temur deck because having counter spells versus a very straight combo deck is normally very good, but Temur might be
Yeah.
light on those counter spells, but they have Force of Negation, Force of Will. That should help.
It's missing the discard spells Grixis would have, but for that it has a little bit more action, and I think it's really important against a deck like Doomsday to have Disruption and a
Yes.
clock. And I think the clock is a little bit faster with Temur Tempo
Definitely.
in a lot of cases.
An early Murktide or even Hooting Mandrills or something like that.
Although already called out Minsk and Boo.
Yes, even though that is a clock, but only turn 4 without acceleration.
True, he has no acceleration, I forgot that.
Maybe an elf. I'm not even sure. Or like a Birds
Oh,
of
I don't think
Paradise,
so.
but
But
that's not very common in tempo decks.
It's not that good at attacking, so it's not that nice of a creature for a tempo deck, right?
If you don't play swords or any other equipment, no.
That's something I like to see. A small bird with a
Yes.
big sword. Not a lot of action until now. Just a little bit of table talk and a Dreadhorde Arcanist. That can be a lot of action
That can be a lot of value,
if he has
but
the
not
spells.
the greatest clock.
Yeah, true. It can be a good clock if you have a lightning bolt.
Yeah, true. But we don't have
True.
anything in the yard of the Temur deck yet.
No.
Maxine thinks and fetches again.
I'm not sure if Philip knows at this point what he's playing against.
That is true. This is
Sleight of hand is in a
Yes.
lot of decks.
so is a watery grave. Even though there's not too many
No.
Dimir decks.
It could be
Could
Grixis,
be
right?
Grixis. This is a Bayou, some kind of Sultai, okay.
Mm-hmm. Maybe control.
There
yeah.
have been some Sultai based 4-color decks. Sultai Red.
But in that case, I would think she would fetch something
Probably.
different. Oh, a personal tutor. That's something special. That's something you don't see every deck. And I think I know what she's getting.
There is the namesake.
Oh, what a beauty of a card. From times where the card design were just neat and tidy.
Which one? Personal Tutor or Doomsday?
Both, but Doomsday especially. And a nice blood pet. So she has a turn 3 Doomsday and play around days, I guess. Or Force Spike.
If she finds another land.
If she finds another land. But I think I saw a few lands in her hand. Yeah. A few lands left. And a Collective Brutality. Can see in Maxine's hand. Do you think it's wise to play the Collective Brutality next turn first?
That depends if your opponent taps out or like plays like they have interaction. Or if they just try and put on a lot of a big clock, and be faster than the combo that is already there. So I don't know.
An Unholy Heat removes the Daze protection, and the Dreadhorde Arcanist does a whole damage. Wow.
But there is mana open on the Temur side.
But she goes for it anyway, and there's a Force of Will.
That's probably intentional, just to force out the force. She did trade.
Interesting. Could be done by playing the Collective Brutality,
Yeah,
right?
that is true. But not with the most value. You can't really kill a creature or something, so you kind of want to escalate often.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I think you can expect a creature you can kill with it, right? In
Yeah.
the next 2 turns or something.
And the brutality wouldn't make it a 2-for-1, probably. I don't think Philip would force the collective brutality.
Sure. And now he has 2 cards left in hand. I'm not sure about the amount of counter spells and interaction that's in those left in those hands. But it's not creatures and it's not cantrips, because he would play those. So I don't think there's a lot left, right?
Might be more counter spells. to hold
Mhm.
open. Now I don't know if Doomsday's plan is to cast Doomsdays again somehow. I don't know. Get to 5 mana and Snapcaster Doomsday, or if that was more of a bait to get the teamer deck low on resources and then play a different combo. These
Pretty sure both is
Yeah.
their option. Snapcaster Mage is all in all a very good card. You can play it in pretty much every deck that plays blue, and I think this Doomsday deck isn't really an exception. Tainted Indulgence, but that's a new card, right? That's a new card.
That was
Certainly.
last year, I think.
Oh, good. Last year, yes. 4 sets ago, something like that.
A better charter course, if you will. Better in control decks.
For
Yes.
some decks. Yep.
A 5th land.
But with... But Maxine has time, right? It's not like there's a fast clock. She can wait for the right opportunity.
Texian Probe is nice, but also does not increase the clock. But Philip knows what he's doing.
It's something for the Arcanist
Yes,
to flashback.
so
Sorry.
another card. There was an impulse in Maxine's hand, so Philip doesn't have total information because there's gonna be a new card at the end of the turn.
But drawing 2 cards for 1 mana seems pretty good. Or for 0 mana, sorry.
For 2 life. Phyrexian mana
Yep.
is great.
It's perfect
And
design.
they actually brought it back,
True.
more or less.
But as far as I can see now, yeah, it's
Yeah,
nicer.
the
They learn
completed
from their
Planeswalkers
mistakes.
are totally fine. And none of them cost 1 Phyrexian mana.
Ren and 6. One of the good reasons to play Temur.
Even though it's a bit late here.
And it's without a wasteland. Even though Maxine already has 5 lands, so I don't think a wasteland would
I mean,
do
it
that
would
much.
Cut off the line of Snapcaster Doomsday that we talked about.
Yeah, for example, true. But I don't think value is the problem Philip has right at
No.
this moment.
If that value draws him into action. Right now, not much is happening. The Ren and 6
True,
can ping
true.
down, but that is also just 1 damage per turn. So he needs some counter spells.
Double the clock, more or less.
There's a Strix.
So no more Arcanist beats.
Unless you want to trade. But there is an Unholy Heat in the grave, so
And there's a Ren and 6
is
that
also
can
true.
ping.
but Strix is just such a good card. love it.
Absolutely. Yep. It's one of my favorite cards too, I have
Every
to say.
ability and the artwork, everything comes together.
True, true. Maxine is searching for another land and has already 4 cards back in hand, which we only know the collective brutality of, I guess.
She hasn't
Pretty
played
sure.
much in the last few turns. It's more or less looking for something to do. Not revealing the collective brutality until she has to.
And I'm pretty sure, except for the Doomsday, everything is more or less a 2-card combo, so she has to find 2 cards.
So Doomsday is a 1-card combo for you?
I would say so, yeah. You have to have more cards in your deck, but you only have to draw the Doomsday and play it. And after that, you can make sure in most of the cases that you win.
Shimmer of Possibility. A sorcery speed impulse from the
Still an impulse.
Ravnica Legions, the Ravnica sets we just talked about.
It's also beautiful
Yes.
artwork, right? I like that. A lot of times you don't really get to talk about artworks from commons that don't see a lot of play. But I really like this artwork.
And there is a lot of good artwork on commons. Sometimes it's a bit wasted, you think, unless you play a lot of limited.
What does Mark Rosewater say? It's the details where the player falls in
Yes.
love with your game.
And that works very well with Magic. And it's interesting that this Doomsday deck doesn't try to cut down on maybe not suboptimal cards and just goes for full density, plays Personal Tutor, plays Shimmer of Possibility. A lot of modern combo decks try to only play good cards that also combo. But I like the commitment to the full-on combo deck. Play all the tutors, all the card draw. Just go all in on that one. Now, if you have a Force of Will, would you... Philip countered the Doomsday a few turns ago.
Yeah.
Could you just let the Doomsday resolve and counter the Thassa's Oracle? Or is there space in the Doomsday pile to put in a Pact of Negation or something?
Pact of Negation you can't really use because you can only play it for free in the opponent's turn, but I think Maxine also plays a Force of Will. And in my experience from Vintage, I would say you can't let it resolve if you only have one counter spell in hand. And I think the possibilities in Canadian Highlander aren't that far off, so I would say no, you
Okay.
can't let it resolve.
There's a Profane Tutor.
So in 2 turns, there's 1 combo piece in Maxine's hand. At this point, I really ask what Philip has in hand. There's no action. Maybe there's a lot of creature removal stranded in his hand. Or maybe there are a lot of counter spells which wouldn't look good for Maxine.
There's a Wasteland.
There's a Wasteland. Yeah, nice.
Doesn't do that much here.
Okay.
I mean, Maxine
Sure.
showed that she intends to combo off in 2 turns, so that's 2 more Wastelands, but there's still 6 lands on Maxine's side. And the Ren and 6 actually takes down to ping Maxine to deal some damage.
Which is already at 9. So just 5 more turns, I guess. 6 because the Ren 6 has to tick up.
Both players thinking.
With yeah. I'm really curious what's Philip thinking about at this moment. Oh, the good old no value Snapcaster Mage.
Just end of turn. Flashes in. Increases the clock, finally.
Yeah. Significantly. Down to a 3-turn clock. And another land for Philip.
Philip also asks himself what Maxine's plan is. She's not
Yeah.
comboing, she's not interacting, but also she doesn't really have to. She's not under much pressure. So,
Exactly true. And there's one combo piece in suspend, right? And maybe she just has another combo
Yeah.
piece in her hand. And that's it. And if he has action now, there's the big question: can I play my action, or do I need to hold up counter spells or stuff like that? Because of the suspend.
Philip is delving. He's delving
A Become Immense.
Still pays 2 mana. And Maxine actually
Sweet.
has a Force of Negation, has the counter spell. The Become Immense would have been lethal.
And needs it. Wow.
6 damage to the face here.
It's a long time that I've seen Become Immense.
What is this seems?
And now we
What is
can
the
see
CMC
why
of
Philip.
Become Immense?
6 all in
So
all.
you could cast it
sure?
on the Arcanist and then replay it with the Arcanist, because the Arcanist would have 7 power then. And that's
That's
like
true.
14 damage or
Yeah.
something. 13 damage.
Uh,
That is
yeah, that's
that is
true.
cool.
It's
That
a
is-
really
that
nice
is
card in
cool.
that. Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely. And I really like that you can see why Philip pinged with Ren in 6 that one time, because that's the one damage he needed for this line
Yes.
of play. Really nicely done.
So Maxine can resolve the Profane Tutor.
And searches for a Thassa's Oracle.
Seems like it. Yes, I think that's what she picked out.
Yeah. If you have a 7-point card in your deck, you want
Yes.
to search it, right?
And that's the beauty with Thassa's Oracle, that it combos with a lot of cards.
Yeah. Nearly as much as Time Vault.
Even though Time Vault is more easily tutored. If you
Oh,
don't
true.
play in Eladamri's Call, you don't really have specific tutors for the Oracle.
Now she has the
Fine.
collective brutality.
It was in
there
the
it
starting
is.
hand, and now it secures the last combo pieces.
Yeah, the creature removal in Philip's hand, which he can't really use in this
And a
matchup.
Force Spike. He could have cast the Force Spike. Doesn't do anything
True.
else with his mana, and takes the mana on Maxine's side. Even though it doesn't really matter here. No, it would have mattered actually, right? No, there's another
It would
another
have mattered.
untapped land.
Oh,
So
true, there was a
Yes.
prismatic vista down there, yeah.
and
Yeah.
Maxine plays the Tainted Pack, just exiles her whole deck, and then Thassa's Oracle checks and has only sees no cards in the library.
I admire
And
the
wins the game.
I really admire the use of the collective brutality, I have to
Yes.
say. I
Good
liked it.
restraint.
Yeah. Really.
And we are on to game 2.
What a nice
yes,
game.
there was a lot of back and forth.
What? Really close.
Philip couldn't have done
And
much more
Maxine is
probably.
1-2.
It was just not the greatest draw. I don't think he had enough mana to hardcast the Fury for a long time, which would have been nice. And now there's a good threat. Philip opens game 2 with a Hex Drinker. That can be a very fast clock. That is hard to deal with.
Yeah. Especially if he doesn't need interaction for 1 or 2 turns. Or has a Force of Will in hand.
Hex Drinker and Mox is one of the scariest starts green deck can have, and just put it to level 3 on turn 2 and just have a 4/4 that is immune to most interactions. Philip doesn't have the Moxen, but it's still a very good attacker.
Yeah.
There's a good cantrip.
Ponder from Maxine. Yeah.
Finds-
There are also those in her deck.
Finds a not so good cantrip.
What does it find?
And there was a removal
Shuffle.
spell, but she decides to shuffle it away.
Oh, yeah. I've seen only the Night Whisper. And was already said that you called it a bad cantrip because...
Oh no,
it's a
I
really
meant
good
the
card
Shimmer
draw
of
spell.
Possibilities.
Oh, that was also there, okay.
If you want to call it a cantrip. I don't even
Thank
know.
you,
It's
thank you.
It's more of a card selection tool.
Yeah. Sorcery Speed Impulse, yeah. I love the island, I have to say. Love it.
Where is it from? I don't...
Even it's altered
Oh.
in some way, right? And it's a small city with a face on it, or a tower with a face, or a candle. I'm not entirely sure. A collector oof, what's that?
Oof, there
Whoa.
it is.
Sorry. Sorry, that
Yeah,
was a
I-
personal reaction.
No academies in this match, but yeah, Philip does not pump the Hex Drinker and would have gotten it to level 3 anyways. So Maxine can deal with it in a timely manner. And the oof
Yep.
is just a 2/2 here. It still attacks. And I think Maxine discarded an Emrakul, the Eon's Torn,
Yep.
and has to shuffle the deck.
Interesting that she does that she got the Thought Scour, which would have been really good with both of the cards left in Philip's hand, with an Uro and a Murktide Regent.
True. Philip fetches. Can still fill the yard.
And if he wants to, he
You
can
can
play
play
Murktide Regent.
Murktide, which would be a 4/4.
4/4. It's only a 4/4 for 3 mana that flies and gets
Gets
bigger.
potentially bigger. Yes, the
Well,
last
don't
line
know.
is often overlooked and probably often actually missed in game. If you delve later, if you can pump it again. Same with
Yeah.
some Lelia triggers, which isn't relevant
And the
to this
Forkbolt.
game. Yes, a Forkbolt. And then
Turns the Regent into a
Yes.
5/5.
2 mana 5/5. Flying. That can't really be targeted by, or it can be targeted, but isn't destroyed by fatal pushers. Cannot be prismatic ended. A lot of upside on this Regent.
And to say that that's not even the best case scenario.
Yeah, it could be a 7. No, it can be an 8/8.
Sure.
Yes. Doesn't have to be. It's what Philip was lacking last game.
And now we're looking at a 2-turn clock, right?
Yes. Maxine already at 11.
But Philip has no interaction left, and Maxine knows it, which is equally as important.
But if she has to spend resources on dealing with the Murktide, she is not using those to find the combo.
Looks like she's going for it. We solved the equation.
Surprisingly, just a good card. 3 mana tutor to hand. There is space for 3 mana tutors. Even
Of course. Look at Fabricate.
Search for Glory, which finds legendaries and snow permanents. Also surprisingly applicable in this format.
If you have a 100 card deck with singletons, every tutor is a lot more worth. Especially in a combo deck.
Maxine is thinking.
I guess this is a pretty hard decision.
There is some interaction in Maxine's deck.
Hmm.
There's a cut down. Probably to deal with
She's looking at the demonic consultation.
Thalias and similar taxing creatures.
Hushbringer.
Hushbringer, right. If people play that.
I think I saw one once. There's a demonic consultation.
Which combos similarly with the Thassa's Oracle. Just exiles your deck and Oracle just wins you the game.
With the additional thrill, because you can name a card, any card you want to name. At least it doesn't have. At least if it's not in your deck.
I mean, you can name something in your deck.
And,
you can use it as a tutor, but
yeah, sure.
You do want to use it as a combo piece.
Sometimes you use it to find the Oracle itself, right? And then flashback the demonic consultation or stuff like that.
And potentially a combo piece with the Lelia that we talked about. All the cards exiled from your library would also trigger a Lelia and give her a lot of counters. But
True.
Maxine is not fast enough. Has to scoop to the wasteland and would have been dead very fast anyways. So we have a game 3. Very good. Both decks could execute their game plan once, and now we find out who can do it a second time.
It's really interesting that you don't have to have interaction, right? A very fast clock can do it as well. Because I think Philip didn't interact at all with Maxine in that game.
I mean, the wasteland is...
Except for her life
The
totals.
wasteland is also very good, even though it wasn't strictly
Sure.
necessary. But that is the thing with density in a 100-card singleton. A lot of redundancy is just not as efficient as the best cards you could play, so if you only find the worse versions of a particular effect, then it can slow you down significantly.
Can you see Maxine's hand right now?
Oracle already in hand.
Wow.
There's a petal.
And a demonic consultation and a lotus petal. Wow.
So could
That's a
combo
hand.
of turn 2 without any interaction.
And a cantrip. Just for good measure. I think that doesn't really get better, right? With a discard spell maybe, but otherwise that's a
Yeah,
really
if you
nice
had
hand.
like a force or something to back it up. The thing is that a lot of Philip's interaction, like a lightning bolt or something, wouldn't even stop the combo here, because even if you kill the Thassa's Oracle in response, if the library is empty, then there's still 0 cards in the deck, and that would still be equal to your devotion and win you the game. So we actually have to counter the effect of the Oracle.
And you can argue that that's the big mistake in designing Thassa's
Probably.
Oracle, right? It would change a lot
Yes,
if that weren't the
Because you
case.
can kill a Laboratory Maniac to stop something
Yeah.
like that. And you have to draw from the library with a Maniac. Oracle just checks for it.
Yeah. A little oopsie in a card design.
We have never seen any other mistakes in card design, especially in recent years. Maxine draws a ritual.
Oh, we have a lot of good
Oh,
card design too.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah, a lot. Doomsday, for
Initiative
example.
creatures. Oh wait. Maxine has a lot of mana. She has a ritual. She has the petal. She plays the petal and
Well,
sacrifices it. Plays the
Oh.
Cabal ritual.
and the Thoughtseize in hand. Spell Pierce, very interesting.
True. Catches a spell pierce.
And that was a really good Spell Pierce by Philip, right? Otherwise, she would have
That stops this turn,
could have played the Thoughtseize. True.
but
True.
next turn it couldn't even have countered the demonic consultation. But it would have
True.
taxed Maxine's mana enough that she couldn't play the Oracle right after, which Philip doesn't know, but that's how that would have
Yeah,
played out.
of course. Philip has also a very good hand with the Spell Pierce into Ancestral Recall. Wow.
Plays a Death Ray Shaman. It's now tapped out, but has a lot of cards, so there
Yeah.
is a very strong possibility of any Force of Will, Force of Negation.
I guess we'll see. Oh,
Maxine
that's
does
a
not
soft
go for
equation.
it. Plays it slow. Probably right. You don't have
Yeah,
to
probably. She's
destroy your hand, potentially.
She has proven her. Yeah. She has proven her patience in the first game, and it panned out.
Now, is she looking for something like a...
And again.
Okay.
Oh, there's the demonic consultation. I thought she already had one in her hand, but I guess then I was mistaken. It was a Thoughtseize.
That might
Maybe?
be. That would be very good. That is the thing. If she had the consultation in hand, she would probably find something like a Thoughtseize or a Collective Brutality. But if she already has the Thoughtseize,
So-
she can also check Philip's hand for interaction before she goes for the combo. But Philip is wary now. He has seen
Yeah,
a
of course.
combo piece go to hand. And has to be very careful.
And Maxine has caves in addition, right? Do I see that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so an uncountable Thassa's Oracle is incoming.
You can probably bait the tempo deck, and if it's greedy and doesn't counter the consultation, you can make the Oracle uncounterable afterwards. But that also means she has 4 mana and can Thoughtseize first, then play a consultation, and then play the
Mhm.
Oracle. And Philip isn't sure what to do here. If he had a counterspell,
Understand.
he could probably just pass, but he main phases a Quattle, which means that he probably didn't have a third land, even though he recalled last
Yeah,
time.
probably. Wow. There's a Darcy.
That is generally a very good turn 3. If the opponent didn't want to combo off now. Maxine filters.
Yeah, and just
Maxine
wins the
filters
game.
into 2 black, uses 1 to Thoughtseize, then plays the Consultation, plays the Cavern of Souls, and wins the game. Wins
Well
the
worth.
match.
Wow. Nice.
Interesting.
Really nice match.
Lots of interaction. Very good.
Thank you for commenting
Thank
with
you
me.
for being here.
Bye-bye.
And see you in the next round.
Hello and welcome to our finale for today. I have Klaas with me again.
Hello.
And we have a super exciting last match for today between 4-color no black Seekerwalk against Mario on Junt.
And I think Emil is undefeated. He has not dropped a single game this whole day.
Yeah, he's currently at a 8-0. Absolutely impressive.
Very impressive. People who know him from various discords know that he is a very good player, especially on this deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the async league that's basically running every month or every other. He is usually in the top 8 of players. So, very, very skilled opponent for Mario.
And very fun to see him play Paper Magic with us. He came a long way.
Yeah, all the way from Hamburg, which is amazing that these tournaments can bring so many people together from all over northern Germany. So Emil is on the play, starting with the plains, and
I think that's a mountain.
it's a mountain. Okay.
Those OQE lands are sometimes hard to distinguish. And then plays a Horizon Canopy and a Wall of Blossoms.
That's definitely a decent sized blocker for Mario's creatures.
Yeah, Mario on Junt. Very boomer Junt almost. It's just good creatures, good interaction with a little bit of spice.
So just from the 2 decks, which one do you think is a bit more favored in this matchup?
Generally, probably Seekerwalk, just because it's pretty much the best deck you can play right now. If, like, the metas are to be believed. But Junt has so much interaction and can easily take a game off, especially because the spice is a combo of itself, so these decks are actually quite comparable with being mid-range plan and then some random combos.
Yeah, and Mario has a pretty decent start as well. Casting a Life from this loam this early must probably feel quite good.
Yeah, it's not putting on pressure though.
Yeah, it's true. Especially not if your opponent plays a initiative creature.
Yes. That's the thing. Seekerwalk can easily put on pressure of its own with a white plume unanswered on the board right now.
Yeah. I mean, the deck is just not so combo-centric anymore. The mid-range plan is just so strong, especially with the inclusion of the initiative as of now.
Yeah, and you can just use them to get the initiative and then Eldritch Evolution them away and get a combo or something like that. They have double purpose here.
But Mario had the lightning bolt ready before Emil could put the counters on the white plume. But Emil just plays another threat after another threat. And discards his own life from the loam.
Yeah. It's always nicer to discard it than to cast the first. To cast the first ones never feels super great. Just getting one fetch land back isn't super nice. The Ragavan is just dashed, so it's not gonna stay, but it's good enough. Makes a treasure.
So Mario with a crop rotation.
Few options probably, but on an empty board, a Gaia's Cradle isn't very great. So there's one ominous card that people are probably expecting, which is just a very good threat in itself, even though it's just a land. And that is the Urza Saga.
That one just does so much.
Getting in at end of turn also means that you can activate it immediately the next turn if you want to. Can't use the first mana, but just losing one colorless mana isn't super bad. It doesn't block the Ledger Shredder though.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not getting through that Wall of Omen. Wall of Blossom,
Not yet.
sorry.
So the initiative is probably gonna stay on the left side for now. Life totals are still quite high, but that can change quite rapidly.
Yeah, Mario just plays that Scalding Town again. I'm wondering if it would not have been better to keep that crop rotation up, to maybe interact with a Seeker, Timeless Witness, Eternal Witness line, with maybe interact with a Bajuka Bog or something on instant speed.
Ah, that's what you mean.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you could probably. I don't know if Mario plays it, but probably.
Yeah,
Do not have the list
but with
ready.
that much stuff on the board on Emil's side already, I can definitely understand why grabbing an Urza Saga here was his choice.
Yeah, and then he plays a Soul of Windgrace. Interesting, relatively new card. 4 mana, 5/4, brings back lands, has bunch of activated abilities. Pretty much a planeswalker with a quite good body. So that does put on some pressure. Means Mario's not gonna activate the Saga. At least this turn. The Soul of Windgrace has showed up in some modern Junt lists, so definitely not the worst card.
No, definitely not.
Even though 4-drops have to do a lot in our format. Something like Omnath, for example, which is definitely played in the 4-color deck. To great effect. And there is the aforementioned Eldritch Evolution.
Yeah, so this is probably getting a Spellseeker. Yeah, there it is. Which grabs an Ephemerate. And then Emil just casts the Ephemerate, targeting the Spellseeker, getting a Time Walk. And that's just game for Mario.
Did Emil have a way to get the time walk back? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I'm wondering as well. I'm not sure about that one actually.
But
because there were no Eternal Witness or something, but
he might not even go for the combo if he does not have the Timeless Witness or another witness in hand. So
yeah.
On to game 2.
Yeah, Mario on the play this time.
And probably wishes for a bit of a faster start.
Yeah.
Birds, pretty good.
Yeah.
Snow Ragavan.
Some acceleration on turn 1. It's always nice.
Just land pass. There's a Mox. So potentially 4 mana on turn 2. Very great.
Yeah, definitely a good position for Mario right now.
But he seems to not have another land, so we stay on 3 mana for now. Or maybe he thinks about which land to play. No, he goes for a Green Sun Zenith for 2.
But Emil fetches in response. What do you think Mario would grab at this point for 2 mana?
Very hard to say. I don't know what the creature with the most pressure would be for 2. It might just be another ramp creature.
Yeah.
Something like a Paradise Druid. I don't know if people play that, but something like that. A better 2-drop ramp.
Yeah, true. Maybe Sylvan Caryatid or something.
This is okay, there's a brainstorm for now. Emil trying to find a force or something, probably. But I don't even know if it's necessary to go into card disadvantage here to deal with the Zenith. Against something like Academy, you could probably get a Collector Oof if Mario's playing something like that. There are some pretty good taxing creatures, even in Junt colors. And Mario's thinking.
Yeah, it's pretty tough now. Do you want something that pressures Emil and advances your own board state, or are you trying to play it more carefully and get something like a Scavenging Ooze?
He finds a
Wow.
Witherbloom Apprentice.
Yeah,
So this is part of the
that's the spice.
that is part of the spicy combo that's in the Junt list with a Bloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog. A 2-card combo that just kills the opponent because you can copy the Chain of Smog any amount of times you want. But it's quite easily interacted with. You can just kill the Witherbloom Apprentice in response to any of the triggers, really. You could even let Mario discard his hand, take some damage, and then kill the Apprentice. I think that's how that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mario even has a Tainted Pact.
So with another land in hand, he could potentially go for the combo right now,
If there's no interaction.
if there's no interaction.
Which is...
And if he wants to exile that many cards from his library, just finding that Chain of Smog.
So we go looking. It is quite unlikely that Emil doesn't have any interaction. He plays a lot of counter spells, a lot of actually like lightning bolts, stuff like that. So you could either force his hand or find a different thing. Another threat to draw out some interaction.
That's a lot of cards.
There was a Rankle and now a Laelia. A very good threat.
Yeah.
One of the better just 3-drop threats in our format at the moment.
Let's see what 2023 will bring us.
Hopefully not more initiative creatures,
Oh, please no.
even though Lelia is on a actually similar power level, I would think, but if she's dealt with, she's dealt with, and has probably just drawn like one card, and the initiative sticks around. So there is another land. But we see a punishing fire.
Emil had the interaction ready.
Yeah, so probably a good idea by Mario not to go for the combo. But also means he's playing a bit off mana. Just used 2 mana on the last turn, even though he would have had 4. Punishing fire, very interesting in Emil's list, I have to say.
It is.
Another 1-for-1 excavator for mana leak. And more mana denial.
Yeah, Emil is clearing out the board quite good at this moment.
And this is where we see how similar these decks are. They're just trading 1-for-1 removal interaction. Emil with more counter spells, Mario with lightning bolts and fatal pushes. There's some more value.
Reanimate. Nice.
Pretty good here.
Yeah.
To hit some more land drops. Stay on top of the game. There we see more interaction.
Both players are really throwing some punches there.
Yes, sadly no fetches in Mario's grave.
I think no other lands at all for the excavator, right?
Yeah.
I think that was Emil was checking.
There's another creature. Oh no, it's a planeswalker. It's a grist. So getting cast as a creature, but now as a planeswalker on the grave.
And with the mill trigger on this deck, Emil decides to bolt the excavator, so Mario is not gonna get any more value from his graveyard.
Which he could have, because he actually hit a land. And we
Yeah.
also see the Bazooka Bog. Mario just plays it to hit a land drop. Does not hold it to exile something super valuable.
I think that's a good decision at that point, because if you can't use the Bazooka Bog on instant speed against the Seekerwalk deck, it's pretty much, I wouldn't say useless, but it definitely gets less value.
But now there's a planeswalker on an empty board. Which bodes well for Mario, even though Emil can probably take some of the hits and just try and find the combo.
Yeah. But the pressure is building up with all those tokens.
Now we finally see the Lelia and it promptly gets counterspelled.
Yeah, Emil really can't let that one resolve.
And just passes it back.
Just accumulating too much value.
Not much action. Not much action on Emil's side.
Yeah, Mario's probably a little bit sad to see all those planeswalkers go. That the grist is milling at the moment. That Minsk and Boo would have speed up his clock pretty much a lot.
Yes. very much. It could be that Emil's hand is full of counter spells, and so it might not even resolve. Mario feels bad about the Planeswalkers. The Liliana wouldn't really do much here. It could get a Lelia back from the grave, so that would be quite nice. Attacks for 3.
We see an ice here at the end of turn just to tap down a red source, so Emil gets a redraw.
And we can see the Force of Will in hand, which is no hard castable.
Yep.
I think, if there's enough blue sources.
I think there should be.
4 tokens in the red zone. And also Mario passes it back. And is now checking what even Grist's ultimate does. Think it would deal damage equal to the number of creature cards in Mario's graveyard to each opponent.
Yeah. I think either that or twice as much as the number of creatures in your graveyard.
Either way, enough to kill Emil.
Yeah. Mario also had the answer to the Knight of Autumn that Emil could have used as a blocker.
Interestingly, he tried to destroy the Mox and not gain some life or something, but it seems to have not mattered either way. And Mario takes the first game off of Emil for the whole day.
There is a chance for Junt.
Emil sadly only had some utility cards, Eldritch Evolutions, or I think it was a Neoform, and without any creatures that doesn't do anything.
Yep.
So Mario could wail away at him.
So the final match of the day. Emil had to take a mulligan to 6. Mario kept a 7. Now Emil has a tough decision to make, which card to bottom.
Puts away a land, I think.
Yeah.
But he still has 2 other ones in his hand. Starts off with a ponder and does not shuffle.
Yeah, he likes what he sees. Mario with some pressure this time from a Hexdrinker on turn 1.
If you can get that one to level 3, it's pretty immune to most removal in Emil's deck. But we do see the Fury already in Emil's hand, so he's not too concerned. And also potentially a quick Fire and Ice. Or just the fire side. There's a Caryatid. That also gets mana leaked. More 1-for-1s.
Yeah, but it's good for Emil to not let Mario advance his board
Yes.
this early in the game. If I saw correctly, I think he was thinking about bottoming the mana leak when taking his mulligan. But I think he's pretty glad that he kept it now.
Yes. The Caryatid is very hard to answer, and even though it itself has not that much pressure on the board, it can ramp quite nicely and cannot be that easily interacted with. And now Emil passes back without hitting the land drop, so he's still on 2 mana.
So Emil already has the ephemerate in hand. That's pretty good. And a witness effect.
And the Inquisition of Kozilek that was just played can only take an ephemerate or the Bone Crusher Giant.
Yep.
Everything else is CMC 4 or more. Even the Fire and Ice, even though each mode is only 2 mana. The whole CMC is 4, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yeah.
Mario puts away the Bone Crusher Giant. Which makes sense for now.
Yep.
And now Mario plays a Dark Confidant, while knowing that there is a fire in the hand of his opponent.
Yeah, I think he forgot that he could split up the damage.
Yeah. And so Mario just gives Emil a 2-for-1, and that takes away a lot of pressure, and that does not bode well. Emil finds his third land.
And because it's a Misty, he's pretty much set with all his colors right now.
Mario finishes his fetch.
Makes his 4th land drop.
You could hope to have a Minskin Boo or something, just a very heavy bomb in hand, and try and slip it through some counterspell that might be, or hopefully not, in Emil's hand, but he just plays a Shadow Spear and has to pass.
I mean, that Shadow Spear is a nice investment in the future, but probably not what Mario was hoping here for.
Just the 1 mana isn't really an investment if you have 3 open mana, so
yeah.
You could only play like a 2 or 3 drop even if you find another land and then equip it. More shuffling.
That's what this format is all about.
That's why we play it. And another land for Emil. Fetches.
There comes the Timeless Witness.
Just uses it to get another land drop next turn. That's a nice 2-for-1, I
Yeah,
guess.
So holding up that 3 mana was not that bad for Maria at all.
Call Again's always nice if you can find 2 good modes, even though you're not really doing too much to the board. You do remove 1 body, but that body can also come back from the graveyard.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Hex Drinker.
But at least he gets his Hex Drinker
Yeah,
back.
and he could play it and
And-
immediately get it to level 3 and make it relatively immune. While Emil is tapped out. And that's what he does. But we know potential doom.
Yeah, we can already see it coming.
There's a Fury, and that's hard cast. So a very good Flame Tongue Kavu here.
Yeah.
It is quite unfair, I have to say, that these 4-color decks can play pretty much any elemental incarnation that they want to, and either keep them, often evoke them. They just have
Yeah. Feels pretty
they
unfair.
can have so much value in card draw that they can easily take that hit to their hand size and just keep going. We can see the Omnath that is already in hand, which is at the same time a value piece, which draws a card. It's a good ephemerate target. It gains you life. It rams you. And it can also pitch.
Slices, it dices.
And it can also pitch to any of the incarnations, but because it is 4 colors, so it's pretty much the central card of this deck. If you do not want to count the Spellseeker, because the deck could very much function without it.
Yeah, I would agree. That's definitely the main card beside the combo in the deck. I'm really glad he's not playing the textless version.
Yes. Also kind of insane to print that card, but it's a funny promo, that's fine.
Yeah.
But one would think we had learned from the textless cryptic command, which had considerably less words than this Omnath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mario now looking through his deck after casting a Traverse the Ovenwald.
And he has Delirium, so he can find any creature in his deck.
And he already asked if First Strike applies when fighting, which is not the case.
Yep.
Which might give us a hint on what she's looking for. What card he is looking for.
Yeah, facing down that 3/3 double strike is pretty tough. He really needs to get rid of it.
You can just find a bolt or something. That's the nice part about most of the incarnations, that their bodies are relatively small. Apart from endurance, which makes it contention for one of the the best one probably. And he finds a Morlock, which can fight on ETB. And Mario casts a Thoughtseize right after.
Getting rid of that Omnath just in time. Or isn't he?
The other card is an Ephemerate, right?
Yes, it is.
Which would be dead for now. Like it could blink. It could blink the Fury, but Mario currently doesn't have any creature on board. But he takes away the Ephemerate, not the Great Body. interesting choice.
I mean, it pretty much blanks his Morlock, because he could just ephemerate the creature Mario is trying to fight,
That is true.
and then when it comes back, it gains him additional value. So I can understand that.
The double striker attacks. The Warlock is not on the field. It is still revealed and should be in Mario's hand.
Yeah. It's also a tough decision what to fight now.
Shocks himself. Can cast the Morlock for 5 mana. X equals 3, which still makes it a 5/5. I am also baffled that this X creature does not enter with X counters, but just is. I mean, it does enter with X counters, but it is already a 2/2. So it will always have vanilla stats and then massive upside.
That card is so good.
Fights the Fury, not the Omnath.
I mean, it can just block the Omnath now.
If Emil is ever wanting to attack now. Even though Mario's down to 9 life.
And there we see a green sun for X equals 3, finding a Eternal Witness.
And that is also one of the strengths of this deck, that is incredibly resilient to hand attack, because you can get pretty much anything back with the multiple witnesses that you have. And he does get back Ephemerate, which blinks the Eternal Witness, gets back another card. So much value.
So Omnath triggers the first time this turn, gaining Emil 4 life. Fetches right away, which will trigger Omnath a second time.
It is very fun to see all the busted cards that we can play.
Yeah.
If everything's busted, nothing is busted, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that one.
And speaking of busted, there is another initiative card. The third or fourth best. The Undercity, not Undercity, the Undermountain Adventurer.
Yeah.
So Emil can find another land drop for next turn. Even though that's just a basic, not a fetch, so does not trigger the second part of Omnath yet. But now this is scary. There's 3 creatures on the board. Mario's just at 9 life, has 1 blocker, even though that blocker potentially has lifelink. And Emil can enter the forge, put some counters on creatures, make them harder to block. And Emil needs to find something good. Mario. Emil has all the good cards.
But it's a pretty exciting finale. It's pretty good showing for Seekerwalk, especially. Let's see if John can get out of this.
Mario's thinking. Has already equipped the Shadow Spear. And now calls for a judge. gets up and leaves the table.
Yeah, you always get the chance to talk to the judge away from the table so your opponent can't hear what you're asking.
So what was this call about?
Mario asked when he foretells the card, which he does now, which timing restrictions apply to the casting of the card later on. So as long as you don't cast it in your turn or at the same turn as you foretell it, you can cast it on the following turns. And Mario just wasn't unsure about that one, as far as I remember.
Especially because he foretold an instant. That should be a delayed blast fireball, which foretold can potentially deal 5 damage to each creature his opponent controls and would wipe the board, but he cannot cast it yet. And it costs 6 mana, so you would even need to find another land next turn. And he attacks. Big life swing.
And he gets initiative.
So there's the next land drop for the delayed blast fireball. Very good card. I do like it in my red lists as well. Even though it's a lot better when you do not have to foretell it. You can just get 2 small creatures.
So now it's Emil's turn again. In his upkeep, he casts the Ephemerate, targeting the Eternal Witness, which will get back the same Ephemerate.
Because it already resolved when the Eternal Witness enters the battlefield again. Which is a very good loop. And also one of the basics of this deck. So he has another 2 Ephemerates potentially over 2 turns. Can just keep linking the Eternal Witness and generate more value. Or blink the Omnath to draw some cards. Or blink the Undercity Undermountain Adventurer to advance in the dungeon to get back the initiative.
Yeah, the world is his oyster right now. So many options.
Chooses to attack actually.
So brings Mario down to 6. Emil gets back the initiative, which he will remember in a moment. Yep. Going to the forge.
Mario allows to go back and get the trigger. Casts a Sevin's Reclamation.
He's getting a Misty Rainforest.
Goes straight to the battlefield and is the second trigger for Omnath.
He fetches.
Which is a third trigger for Omnath.
Which will deal 4 damage to Mario. Bringing him down to 2 life.
And we know what's in his hand. Which is...
So with the Ephemerate, he just takes down this game.
Flickers the initiative creature. Advances in the Undercity, finds a trap, and makes Mario lose 5 life. There was a close match.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to Emil for taking down the tournament almost undefeated, if it wasn't for Mario.
Congratulations to Mario for making it this far and taking a game off of Emil.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we hope you enjoyed our tournament. If you have any questions, just leave us a message down in the comments or find us on our Discord channel, which you can find in the description box down below. Klaas, do you have any final words for the viewers?
Do subscribe to this channel as well. Leave a like and maybe check out our other channel, which we are gonna link right now, where we have some German commentaries as well. And have a good and nice new year.
All right. So thank you, Klaas. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.